For those who aren't aware, there's a clear 13-step path on WikiHow for making an NBA roster. By following this step-by-step plan, anyone can make it. Starting with step 1, play your best and practice shooting from everywhere. You want to make sure you're a threat from any spot on the court. Step 2, record yourself playing so you can watch it back. The more footage of you playing, the more you can learn from your mistakes.
Second-round pick, LA Lakers.
Step 3, play with people better than you.
Absolutely be a stopper. Durant just knocked away.
But you know what? Given the Bronny James route, you don't even need to do these next 10 steps and you'll somehow make it to the league. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, believes that Bronny James has no business being in the NBA.
Bronny James is the worst player in the NBA by far.
But his performance so far is not justifying the hype.
Summer League Bronny didn't even look like he belonged in the G League, or for that matter, in the Summer League.
After a lackluster season at USC, NBA scouts wanted him to take a minimum of 1 to 2 more years in college. And even then, they didn't see him as a guaranteed talent. His father, who's LeBron James in case you didn't know, being arguably the greatest player in league history, is widely considered to be the sole reason he's on a roster. Maybe that's the fourth and final step for Bronny's WikiHow. But for all the mentions of nepotism the James' family has gotten as of late, growing up under a microscope isn't as easy as Bronny has made it seem. And although a lot of grown men on the internet don't want to admit it, Bronny at just 20 years old has overcome a ton of adversity. And there is a reason why he's in the NBA. Born during LeBron's second season, Bronny's growth as a person and hooper has been cataloged since the beginning of LeBron's dominance. He's been around for every championship, every MVP, and basically every key moment in LeBron's career. Bronny has been right there in the eye of the public. I mean, even his 5th grade highlights have amassed over 3 million views on YouTube. When sports legends have kids, there's a lot of cases where the young athlete is stuck in the shadow of the family legacy. Take for instance Michael Jordan and his 2 sons. Both Marcus and Jeffrey attempted the path of basketball up to the collegiate level. Jeffrey was not able to make much impact. Marcus, on the other hand, could actually play. He attended University of Central Florida and in his sophomore season averaged 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. It seemed like he'd find himself a legit second-round pick if things progressed like this. But alas, they didn't. Or what about a bit more recent with Shareef O'Neal? It felt like a natural progression for Shaq's eldest son to follow a career in basketball. He actually has a lot of similarities to Bronny. For starters, he grew up in the social media age. His high school mixtapes have amassed over 7 million views individually. And before we get into the other eerily similar moments post-high school both Shareef and Bronny experienced, we have to mention one more guy.
Manute with another. Oh my!
Manute Bol was never to the level of an MJ or a Shaq, but he still put his stamp on the NBA history books. So when people saw his son Bol come up, all eyes were glued on him to see what he could do. You watch him move and it's like he's a guard trapped in an oversized body. At 7'3" with a 7'8" wingspan, he has a smooth handle and fluid jump shot. Because of his unicorn status, Bol was thrust into the zeitgeist of the next generation names of Bronny James and Shareef O'Neal, who's being covered by Slam magazine while also learning to drive a car. And that amount of fame at such an early age still seems to haunt Bol's player progression to this day.
With the 44th pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Bol from current.
Although it seemed like a surefire lottery selection was in Bol's future, he found himself sliding all the way down to number 44. Bol had a successful start to his freshman season at Oregon, averaging 21 points and just shy of 10 rebounds a game. But just after 9 games, he got a stress fracture in his left foot that sidelined him for the entire season. So injury concerns were a big part of his draft fall. However, the bigger part that people are now only realizing is something the NBA scouts saw from day one. In both Denver and Orlando, he showed flashes of his offensive potential, but as inconsistent as those flashes came, reports of a poor work ethic seemed to be much more steady.
Unstoppable talent, but he ain't using it.
It doesn't take too much of a leap to say that some kids might not be able to handle amassing millions of views on social media, being on magazine covers, and that an NBA career is practically a given with the natural skill you have. Bol got all of that while working at whatever level he was as a teenager. Having to compete for a starting spot spot probably felt as strange to him as going to a photo shoot. Meanwhile, for Bronny, it seems like he's been able to keep a pretty level head and understands the work ethic that goes into becoming an NBA player. He went to USC and was not handed the keys to anything. He came off the bench, kept his head down, and stayed out of trouble. The same could not be said for MJ's son Marcus. In his second season at UCF, Marcus's career high averages were paired with being investigated by the Nevada Gambling Board after touting on Twitter about spending $50,000 in Vegas. And given he was still under the legal betting age, it seemed like he was pulling some type of strings to place bets. Then in 2012, Marcus would randomly leave basketball behind and not play it for his senior year. He again was in trouble with the law when he got arrested in Omaha after having a drunken argument outside a hotel. He was charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and obstructing justice. He pleaded no contest and paid a fine plus court costs. Compared to Bronny's averages of 5 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, Marcus had the numbers to make a case for becoming an NBA player. But it seemed like one thing after another just kept cropping up, which made teams not want to draft the NBA legend's son. Just how Sharif wasn't purely picked up in the NBA because of the name on his jersey. Sharif failed to gain any traction really in college. He averaged 2.5 points and 3 rebounds and decided not to return for his senior year and instead entered the draft, even with his dad Shaq urging him against it. But Sharif felt like he had gotten all he could from college and it was now time to tackle the pros. His father, on the other hand, said to slow down and basically that he's not ready. This is where that eerily similar thing happens between Sharif and Bronny. Neither son put up great stats in college, and both had almost lethal heart problems at an early age.
18-year-old Bronny, a freshman on the USC basketball team, suffered a cardiac arrest on Monday during a workout on campus, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti has the latest details.
What's different about Bronny, though, compared to everyone else we've talked about, is the sole scrutiny he got during his 1 year in college. He put up similar numbers to Sharif in his first year, but each game closer to the NBA draft date became a bigger and bigger media storm. People felt like he was given a preemptive NBA spot without even earning it. Even after going into cardiac arrest and then miraculously coming back and playing for the season, there were few feel-good stories that came out of Bronny's career. Some even took his own agency away from him and placed it solely on what his dad wants for him. But was that really the case? Whether another year or two would have been good for Bronny's development, it's hard to ignore the fact that being put in his shoes, I'm not sure anyone would have turned down a chance to become an NBA player. He stayed out of trouble unlike Marcus, he had the work ethic unlike Bull, and he had the support behind him unlike Sharif. This was Bronny's moment whether people liked it or not. He had to strike while the iron was hot. Would you have turned it away?
With the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James from the University of Southern California.
For being such a late second-round pick, people were up in arms.
I think this is the worst decision that's ever happened in professional sport.
I've never heard anything like this. The whole thing is a complete debacle.
And it didn't seem to matter during Summer League if it was a bad night or a good night box score-wise. People said the only reason he's there is because of the shadow he's yet to step out of. Whether Bronny can develop into a long-term player will only be told with time. If he doesn't, though, it would be on par for where he got drafted. People were not this up in arms about draft picks like Kyle Guy or Marcus Page, who also went 55th. Kyle Guy got drafted by the Knicks and then traded to the Kings. His first year with the Kings, he only played in 3 games and averaged a little over a point a game. The next year, he averaged 2.8 points. And the following year, he got signed to a 10-day contract with the Heat and was dropped back down to the G League shortly after this. Now, a couple years later, he just finished playing for Lenovo in the Spanish League, but is retired and went back to coaching at his alma mater, Virginia, as an assistant. Other 55th pick in 2016, Marcus Page, had a very similar route as Kyle Guy. He ended his career in Spain as well in 2022 and has since returned to North Carolina coaching staff as director of player development. The NBA is fucking hard. As a 55th pick, you're not expected to make it very far in this league. And if you do, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, Jokic, arguably the best player in the league right now, was drafted 44th overall, at which point they played a Subway commercial over his pick.
The Denver Nuggets select Nikola Jokic.
A delicious cheesy quesadilla
wrapped around a beat.
He averaged about 9 points per game his rookie season, but just kept getting better and better. But someone who's probably more comparable to Bronny would be someone like Danny Green. Selected 46th by the Cavs in 2009, he's recognized as one of the best 3 and D players ever. Someone who's lethal from the three-point line, but can also guard the best player on the other team, which is something that Bronny may have the best chance at becoming in the league. In Danny's first 2 seasons, he averaged 2 and 3 points. So what I'm trying to say is this thing takes time. With some more development and one of the greatest mentors basketball has to offer, Bronny's outlook looks pretty good, no matter what people are saying online. At 55, most players at that point are picked as a potential future 8th to 10th man. Bronny has the IQ and defensive instincts to grow into that role. And according to head coach JJ Redick, Bronny is here for the same reason everyone else is.
Rob and I did not give Bronny anything. Bronny has earned this.
So after all these years, LeBron does finally get to play with his son in the NBA, but it was never a given. Bronny had to keep his head on his own shoulders, and it is up to him how his time in the league will work out. If you've made it to this part of this video, I have one question for you. Has your perception changed? It's easy for everything to fall into perception of being black or white. Bronny either made it because of nepotism and is trash, or he's actually really good and will have a long career. I think the reality is his dad's name helped him get on the map, but his skills got him the 55th overall pick, and he has a shot to become a decent player in the league. Please, please, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you don't already, please throw us a subscribe. We drop a video every week. Thanks for watching.